All right. So, how long have you been a high school wrestling coach?
25 years.
Oh, wow. All right. And have you always been with the same school or?
Yep, yeah, 25 years at Cooper City High.
All right. Uh, okay. So, did you wrestle in high school and college?
Yeah, yeah, high school and college. Yep. I wrestled up in Illinois in high school, and then I wrestled when I was at the Coast Guard Academy.
Okay.
So it was Division III up in New England.
All right. What was that like?
I mean, it was fun. It was fun. It was always fun to compete. And did real well, and was New England champion twice,
Oh,
and
wow.
did made it to nationals twice. Was an All-American,
Mm.
and so yeah, it was a real good experience. Had a really good group of teammates. We as a team won New England championships one year, and so yeah, it was a really good experience.
Just curious, were you a Christian then, or?
Yeah,
Oh,
I became a
okay.
Christian and towards the end of high school.
All right.
So, but I did a lot of growing then. Like that was really a good, uh, just a good venue that helped stretch me and it was just a really good time of growing in my faith and learning,
Mm-hmm.
more about the faith and playing it out and living it out. Relying on God, especially cutting weight and stuff, and but really kind of learning about how to glorify God and
Mm-hmm.
whatever I did, and so yeah, it was a good time that I'm away from home, so I used to always I had really nice good parental support, which was great when I was home, but when I was in Connecticut, they could come out to watch the meets and stuff, so I had a nice group of Christian uh, within our fellowship, and so they would come to the meets, and but also just kind of worked on making it my goal that I glorified God in everything.
All right. So like what lessons would you say you learned through when you were wrestling in say, high school and college? What lessons did you learn then, and then how did you apply it to coaching?
Uh, well, you learn a lot of things just training wise and technique wise as you go. You develop your attacks and your defenses and your top position, your body. You develop all those things, and so knowledge wise of techniques and strategies and all that kind of stuff. That's something you grow in as an athlete, and you even refine it much more. Even as a coach, you learn you learn a lot about trusting your coach, and like I was saying, also just in the spiritual realm. As much as I wanted to glorify God as an athlete, I also wanted to bring honor and glory to Him as a coach as much as I can. So it's always, if you're a public school teacher, there are certain limitations, but nonetheless, it's still the lessons that you bring, and to me that as coaching, um, my main job and my main goal is to develop the character of my athletes
Mm-hmm.
and to grow them, into mature young men,
Mm-hmm.
and so I knew how well that tool. A lot of sports are all. There's a lot of great. Obviously, there's a lot of great lessons you can always learn in all sorts of sports. And wrestling is really that I would say one of the toughest out there. So you really, you really can grow in a lot of ways when the pressure's on, and there is a lot of pressure. Going out is going to be you and him, and there's not going to be anyone you can, turn to, and he wants to, overpower you, and and it's just you and him, and the coaches might be yelling stuff on the side, but really it comes down to that, and so it's kind of like you're going to battle, you're going to war, and so the pressure's on, and so people are more moldable, during those times. Like they say, there's no atheists in foxholes. So, you go there, and some people are going to use, religion as like a, they'll do a couple of genuflex, and that's like their little good luck charm, and some people it's authentic that they're just acknowledging God and all they do, but I try to acknowledge God and what we do, and teach good lessons, and we do pray before our meets and stuff like that, and so it's it's reflecting back to God, and that like that.
All right. So I know it's been kind of a bizarre year. So I would just ask, how has COVID, how has it affected your season, or if you've started? And I know it's also affected you personally, if you want to get into that. I don't know if you personally want to do that. But like, how has that affected you, and how your team at all, like this season?
Well, wrestling wise, I also coach cross country.
Okay, right.
And for wrestling, it hasn't had that much of effect. We were able to finish our season, and last year in the winter, and it was shortly after that we finished the season that things started to lock down. So we were pretty much okay with that. Now, it did affect our off-season training. It's the routines that we have of being in the weight room, and then the wrestling, getting on the mats in the summer, and then usually I take a group up to camp up in Ohio, and so we weren't able to do that. So it's been on the training end. It hasn't been, that is a nice thing that we do, and it's a good team bonding, experience, and it's also very good for growth. So that that's a bummer that we weren't able to do that. And so, who knows how it's going to play out this year. Right now they're saying that they're going to start allowing the ball sports to train in a couple weeks. So it may end up that we can have our season maybe a little bit shortened because the ball is going to, bump up a little bit further into us. But things could change in a heartbeat, and then we won't. Who knows, So, I'm just being optimistic, and hoping that we're going to have the season. And so, it hasn't really so far had a major effect. It certainly has affected us. It would have been nice to go to camp and do our summer training. But now, of course, cross country we're on hold, and so we're not, we're not able to do anything training wise. It has to be all whatever they just do on their own, which is a sport that lends itself to it pretty well. It's not like football where you got to work through your plays, and you got to all sorts of specific things to the working of a team. The individual sport like cross country where anyone can run whenever they want. So, and it seems like now, of course, a lot more people are getting out and doing things, and so it really to that, and with that sport that really lends itself to being able to have the self-discipline. But we'll see who did, who didn't, but that seems like a season that all seasons are probably going to cut short a little bit, but we'll see what happens with that. Personally for me, the COVID time is, it's been overall, I would say that it's been overall good. It's I'm spending a lot more time with my family, and my wife. Um, so it's good quality time that that you tend to not have, especially during season and throughout the school year. We're getting a lot of time. I'm home teaching, from home and all that kind of stuff. So, and I've been, since March. So that's a good thing. That sports can tend to, especially coaches, tend to be away a lot. So, it's been given, a time, a blessing of time to be with the family, a break from a little break from the grind, really. So, I'm excited about getting going with it again if it happens. And I've been just appreciating a little bit of a break.
Right. All right. So, like, what would you say are your goals for this season?
So it all depends on what we're able to do. The um, it depends if everything gets shifted too far, then we won't be able to do the state series. Originally, that's what they're talking about. Is that South Florida probably with almost for sure the fall sports, but possibly winter and spring may not be able to do their state series. I think spring probably is most likely, as long as there aren't any more major delays or whatever. But so, anyways, we don't know what our season's going to entail, how long it's going to be, if we're going to have state series or not. But if we have the state series, a goal would be to win the district championship. We've been second for the last quite a few years. We had a nice run of 4 straight, and we had 2 straight, but there's been a rival team a little west of us that's been beating us, so I'd like to beat them, and we'll win the district. And it's always, a goal to get some people to state, so if that's available, that'd be great. I mean, we've got a very tough region. So it used to be kind of a thing that you'd almost really took for granted, really. I'd always get 2 or 3 or 4 guys to state. And then we shifted regions, and now it's a whole different ballgame. So it's always a thing that you really have to work hard to earn to move through that region, which is, it's good to have that challenge. You got to wrestle the best to be the best, and so going through that region definitely it grows our game up, and the guys know that they have to have a lot of preparation, a lot of training, and a lot of hard work to get themselves to the point where they can get through the region. So I'd love to see a few guys make it to state if we can get to state. Love to see us win the district. We're usually top 5 in the county team-wise. I think we can this year. We could probably be maybe possibly even in the hunt for the county championship. I don't know. Definitely we could be in the top 3. But depending on, and that might be our whole championship, this year, because of it might be like all you can do is a county championship, and you can't have a state championship or whatever, which is very possible, because especially with the transportation and all that. So who knows? But those are some things I'd like to do. And again, these are the outer. It's fun to win. It's fun to have championships. It's exciting. But the goals that I always put above that is that my athletes compete with honor. They have good character. And they reflect, positively, and so that's really what it's all about for me.
Okay. So what is your favorite verse, Bible verse? Does it apply at all to wrestling, and why would you say it's your favorite verse?
I don't know if I guess we'll have life verses and favorite verses. I don't know if I would say I have a favorite one overall, but one certainly that comes to mind that I think about with coaching is, in whatever you do in word and deed, do it wholeheartedly as unto the Lord, not unto men.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, that does. That really was a major verse that guided me as a competitor, and and it guides me as a whatever I'm doing, teaching, coaching, fathering, husbanding. It's a verse that in whatever you do, so
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty far-reaching. Do it
Mm-hmm.
all unto the Lord, So yeah, I guess if I had one, that certainly would be one that would be a possibility as being my top.
um. Oh, okay. So this. Yeah. So, who would you say has helped and mentored you in your through um journey through wrestling, and also who have you mentored as a coach? So I guess who mentored you when you were a wrestler, and then who have you mentored as a coach?
Well, I mean, certainly as a competitor, um, your coaches mentor you. It really was
Mm-hmm.
my coaches were my so my Doug Walter was actually my freshman coach in high school, and he moved up to varsity when I moved up to varsity. Um, so that worked out kind of nice, and so he was a good, solid coach, and good motivator. I definitely learned some things from him. My college coach ended up actually coaching for 47 years.
Wow.
And so Coach Eldridge just recently retired. I went up there to, for the ceremony, which was pretty cool. They had the Commandant of the Coast Guard, came to it. And, so anyways, yeah, he was a good mentor. When I first started coaching, the guy who was the head coach at Cooper City, my first 3 years, I was the assistant, and I really learned a lot from him. He was a really good. We had different styles, and we still do have different styles, but I learned a lot about team discipline and doing team bonding and things, and just things like at the end of practice, we all get together and we, have a little word. We all kind of do like a sort of a group hug kind of thing. And then, because, when we're wrestling and then during the day, during the practice, the guys are, it's a fight, more or less. So, come together and remember that, hey, we're just as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And so every time you get somebody who puts it on you, he's helping you also get better, and he's challenging you. John Henry was good in that, he really helped, he set the stage about, hey, there's no cursing here. And, so I, of course, carried that on. And, that seems to be, a lot of coaches, it seems like that's where they have to communicate, is they got to curse. But that's never thing with him, and never thing with my team or me, so they all know if it comes out, they're doing push-ups, 50 push-ups, and so 25 or 50 depending.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I learned a lot from him, my coaching line. Probably most from him as far as being a high school coach. Certainly I carried things from my high school days and from my college days, and he's a good Christian guy too. We still keep in touch. He moved up because he was actually commuting down from Palm Beach Florida, so hour day every day. So he found a job up there, and so we always have at least one tournament where we're at the same tournament together, and so we still enjoy hanging out and talking and stuff. And it was kind of cool when we first started. He was the head coach. We had this one guy who got in a lot of trouble, through his years. He had been through probably 40 some foster homes, been difficult. And John Henry was the also the JV football coach, and so he kind of got a hold of him with football, and then he got him into wrestling, and it was through that those two venues and being on the team and wrestling that he changed his life around. He got focused. He ended up his senior year being an undefeated state champion. It was an unbelievable year for him. And now he's coaching up in Iowa, football and wrestling. He came down actually about a month ago, and it was fun. We got together with him and then another kid who the next year won a state championship, Jeff Beauregard, and then several of his their buddies that were on the team. We all got together and went out to eat and stuff, and so it was pretty cool. It was to be a part of that. It was a great story. He's a believer now, Donald, and so it's just that was really great to be part of that. I found out one of my wrestlers also. He's I got all sorts of outputs of types of people, but from the program. But one of them, he's basically full-time ministry now. He's a sponsor parent at the Sheridan House, or a house parent, where they call them. So I got to see that he actually started out teaching math and coaching, and but he ended up going in full-time ministry. I've got one student who's a doctor, one wrestler. It was kind of cool. This last year or the year before, two of my wrestlers ended up being the coaching staff up in Detroit. One of them, after he graduated, he ended up going to University of Michigan, and he wrestled there a little bit, but it was very toxic. But didn't really quite work out. But anyways, he got out and he's teaching and coaching. And then I had another wrestler who went in the Coast Guard, and he ended up getting stationed in Detroit. And so they got together, and they were the coaching staff, in Detroit. And then I also, one of my former wrestlers who was my assistant is now the head coach up in Binghamton, New York. So I had coaches all over the place. They were my former wrestlers, which is pretty cool. I got a couple of them down here too, several staffs. Olympic Heights coaching staff, both of them were my former wrestlers, and Mater Lakes Academy head coach was my former. Another wrestler and his assistant were at Chaminade for about 6 or 7 years. Another one of my wrestlers was the head coach at the U School as well. So it's kind of interesting how many of my former wrestlers end up kind of following that coaching path.
Yeah, that sounds really good. That because I feel like there's a lot of coaches that they're all about winning. They're all about like results, and they don't really focus on like the character and like how the athletes would how the athletes will do after they're done with the sport or whatever they do in life. And I don't know, I don't want to mention names, but yeah, I guess it would. I had a couple coaches who were pretty good. I guess for me, I would have liked more mentorship in my high school career, I think it would have been a big, really big. Um, what advice would you give to coaches and also athletes? Like, what would you say to them to be like, hey, um, coaching in the world is this way, but if you do it God's way and if you do it as someone that cares about who you're going to mentor or coach, like what does that look like and what would you say to coaches and athletes?
Well, you can always you can tell pretty quickly which coaches are about you know just win at all costs, and which ones are about the athlete and what's best for them.
Mm-hmm.
For not just in the sport but in life. Um, and to me, it's like, why do you even, if you coach, why what's the purpose? The
Mm-hmm.
purpose is to get a bunch of trophies, and it's really about you.
Right.
Just look at me and my it's nice. I've got over 300 wins now. I'm about 350. But I didn't even count that at all. Like I didn't look at it until every year when we did the county championships, they ask what's your overall coaching record. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll finally go back and figure it out. so so I went back and I had to look in the yearbooks and stuff like that. Um, but really, if that's what you're doing it only for that, like yeah, it was nice. But and then it was like, okay, well, honestly, that's to me. When I hit the 300, they had a little article in the newspaper and stuff. Purely it was about like just thinking about how many people have come through the doors of in and out of the doors of my program, and what did they become, and how did they grow, and did I teach them the lessons that will help them in life. Or was it, just about the wins? And to me, it wasn't just about that. It was about, growing them as people. And so, I would certainly encourage anyone who's coaching to care deeply about your athletes and really spend a lot of your effort. There's going to be tons of effort to try to learn the technique and to get in shape and to and you do learn just by the fact that you go through and you do things that are hard and you work through pain, you go past, you get over tough losses, you bounce back, the determinations. There are a lot of lessons that you will get, even if, in spite of the fact that you have a coach that's maybe not focused on the character. But when you can put it together and the coach has the right perspective on it, it really can make a difference in a lot of students' lives, and that's really that's what you want. You want to have eternal fruit. You want things that are going to last, not things that are good to where this kid won a state championship, and then the rest of his life he just kind of figured that's it. I've got the pinnacle of my life, and and then not much happens after that. But if I've got wrestlers who are lawyers, and I said doctors. I got one who's got several that are engineers. One's an engineer and a lawyer. A lot of them are doing well, and I try and keep up. But some communicate back with me, and some don't. But over the years, it's been quite a few. That's what's really, if I could just look back at my career, and I still have, maybe another 10 years or so, but, the thing that gives me the most pride and pleasure and joy is seeing that. That's so much bigger than, the championships. They're fun. Certainly you want to win. That's why you play the sport. Part of it is you want to win. But that can't be the end all be all. A lot of times when it's the end all be all, then it becomes, uh, win at all costs, which means basically cheating, and then what are you teaching them? Then you're really teaching them, you're teaching the opposite of what you should be teaching them. So, so, win honorably, and win with class, and grow as a person, and learn things like, the only thing that you can control is, your attitude and your actions. These are different things that, lessons that you learn, you teach. Hey, you don't have to use language to get, foul language to get your point across. Don't use that crutch, and just wherever we can, but promote righteousness, promote just growing into a solid young man, so yeah, that's what it's really all about.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just a rare thing, because I would say the majority of coaches are very goal and result oriented. I mean, especially in football, you see it basically in every sport, and like having coaches that are focused more on. I mean, I think of like yeah, like coaches like Dabo Sweeney and different coaches. Well, you obviously, but like I'm just saying like people that are like really well known, but there aren't a lot of them because like Nick Saban, I mean, you know he's pretty much goal oriented. I'd say results oriented, but like there there are good coaches that aren't like totally all about results and I would say I think we need more of that in the world, and I yeah, if coaches can coach their athletes and then they go on and they do well, and I think that's really good, and I really do think we need more of that in the coaching realm.
Yeah, it's certainly, I think most people when they're getting into coaching, I mean, initially at least, there's a bit of, altruism, that,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm helping this group of young men, young women, do something, I mean, you're doing something for them, you're helping them.
Mm-hmm.
But, but you just have to, you don't want to lose the focus of, I'm going to help them, but it's not just, about the W's and the L's and the championships and all that, It's fun. I mean, it's certainly, it's fun to win.
Right.
But, that you can't be the end all be all. And so it's just a matter of the perspective, A lot of coaches do care about their kids, I remember I was just watching, this series, and I didn't, and like, there was a lot of cursing by these football coaches, or Last Chance U, I think it was called. Uh, and I was at my parents' house and he was watching it, and I kind of caught a little bit of it. And you could see glimpses of where he really did care about his, the kids, and he would help them with their schoolwork and, whatever. But, he was obviously a different worldview than me, just the unrelenting amount of profanity that, comes out of their mouth to try and make that point, I mean, like, you really, if you took that out of it, it would just make a lot of, to me, it would have gained so much more in my eyes. Because, I did see, some where it wasn't just about the wins. I mean, of course, he wanted to win, and they did well. But but he did, he showed, that he was involved with, different people. I mean, this one kid was basically homeless, living in his truck, and, he helped him and different things. And, but, it's still, if you have that, Christian worldview, it refines it to, where it really helps you to focus mostly on, what is the most important thing.
Mm, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely in today's world, especially, I would say, because there's so much uncertainty and confusion and just like the way this year has gone and just I mean I feel like we need a lot of good people in a lot of different areas, but like teachers and coaches, I feel like they just really leave an impact on kids' lives, and they really like. I'm not saying. I mean, especially if they don't have parents, because you know, if they don't have parents, like who are they going to look to? I mean, they're probably going to be looking to their teachers and coaches most likely. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there certainly are a lot that come from broken families, and yeah, so you end up having a bit of a father figure, and
Mm-hmm.
for some, and for some others, it's you're just coming alongside the parent and what they're doing, and
Right.
helping them
Mm-hmm.
in the direction that they're raising their kids as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh. Well, I. I mean, we could keep going. I do enjoy the conversation because I I don't want to take too much of your time. So, if you're willing, if you would like to conclude, unless you want to keep going, I would just say, do you have anything that you would want to share that either A, people might not know about you that you don't sharing, or B, anything else that you would like to share that you might think is important to this conversation?
I guess just I would like to finish up with, and it kind of goes along with what we've been talking about. But when it comes to what we do and how we live our lives, really we want to keep the main thing in a life. The main thing in our life is the main thing.
Right. Yeah.
Keep the main thing the main thing,
Right.
and so ultimately, we're gonna be, um, you know, giving an account to God for our life,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to hear those words. Well done, my good and
Right.
faithful servant.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see rewards. I want to see, people that I rubbed elbows with, that are there, you know, um, that are even, maybe, and hopefully some are the ones that I led, to the Lord, because
Right.
ultimately, um, the ultimate thing is, to know God and to have a relationship with Him. And
Mm-hmm.
so, so that's really the main thing. The main thing. Certainly we want people to grow as people, but and then ultimately, um, I do pray for all my athletes almost daily. I pray for their salvation, for their lives to glorify God, and
Mm-hmm.
so um, that's really the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a privilege. It's a privilege that you have to be an ambassador for Christ. It's a privilege that you have to coach and be in a position of where you have that extra authority and you have that platform that you have, which is allowed to impact people in a strong way. We have places that we impact in a lot of people in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
There's a classroom also, and that. But certainly there seems to be a special thing that happens when you are on the playing field, and so yeah, ultimately it's about keeping the main thing for
Mm-hmm.
for life, an eternal life.
Right. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking a good amount of time out of your day, and I hope that you will continue to mentor and coach your athletes in a way that is pleasing to God, and that many will become Christians, most importantly, and also successful people in the world because of what you have done for these athletes.
Yeah, well, thanks for your time and for your podcasts. I know that's about sports and how it incorporates within the Christian life, and so that's a great thing. And keep up the good work with that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.